What is up, IQ Academy members? Today, we're going to be touching on the Kinch Raka deck. It is a pillar of the format now, and I felt that it would be good to have a coaching call set aside to just break down this deck, the ins and outs, the different card choices available, a little bit more in depth than what you're used to seeing on the Patreon with the latter videos. And we're going to go over gameplay in real time as well. But before we get into any gameplay, I just want to say that this deck, I think, is very powerful. It's probably going to catch a nerf of some kind. It does have some inherent weaknesses, those being the fact that it doesn't block fearsome units that well, which is part of the reason why fearsome has become such a great mechanic lately. Because of how powerful this deck is, it's a good check on that. I mean, if you look at the deck, just on its base stats, the only unit that can come down and block a fearsome unit is the Boxtopus. That's it. So you need help. There's Pale Cascade to help against fearsome as well. You can maybe see it blade something up. You can grow a Star Shepherd. So it's not like just folding to fearsome, but that's one of the weaknesses of the deck. Also, the deck does, against control decks, need to damage its own units because or provide a serious amount of pressure on the opponent. It needs to flood the board to force them to actually interact with your units to allow you to give you opportunities to to heal them and take advantage of Star Spring. Really, Star Spring is like the best card in the deck. This is what the deck, it's the alternate win con. It also is an enabler for a lot of the healing. It levels Raka pretty well. It plays well with all the self-damaging units as well. So this is the number one card. Personally, my own list, I like playing Divergent Paths as a pseudo fourth copy of Star Spring. I'll bet it is more expensive. And as maybe just like a one of Destroy a Landmark. Really good in the mirror. If they have a Star Spring built up, you can use your Divergent Path to destroy their Star Spring. Even if it's not built up, sometimes you just want to kill it to just get it off the boards where they can't get value out of it. Very important. Astral Protection, one of the better cards in the deck. It didn't look that great coming out, but has really been one of the most important things in the deck. Obviously, Raka and Kinch are non-negotiables. Astral Protection, I'd say you need at least 2, probably 3. I wouldn't play less than 3 personally. Bastion in some number is fine. Some lists do cut Bastion, but I like having a couple to protect your units. It also is a +1/+1 buff, again, as we mentioned, against Fearsome. All of these self-damaging units, I think you have to play full sets of. Crusty Codger, Boxtopus, Fortune Croaker. There is some argument to be made for the Lounging Lizard. That one's not bad. Also, Shakedown, that's another way that you can deal damage to your own stuff while also being a potential removal tool. I think that card's playable. I don't know that you want to play 3. I think 2 would be the most that I would play. Probably just 1. You got Broadback Protector here. This card's not that great against control decks, mid-range decks. It's okay. It's mostly there for aggro. Just being able to heal, and then that way they can't go reach. Because at a certain point in the game, generally rounds 5 and 6, you have the board locked up with Raka, maybe Tahm, Kinch, and some healing with Star Spring and these other units coming up the board. And then the opponent is painted into a corner where they have to draw a reach, and Broadback Protector does shut down a lot of either elusive damage or just spell damage by healing 3 a turn. It's also nice as a slow, the way I look at the concept of the Broadback Protector is it's a slow self-damaging unit. So there's some key plays to be made with the Broadback Protector, like sometimes against Trundle or something, you'll be at full health and you need self-damaging units because you have Star Spring out. So they play a Trundle, don't play the Broadback Protector. Let them attack with it, especially if they play it on their attack token. Let them attack with it, you take the hit, then you play the Broadback, and it'll start damaging itself to give you something to heal. Because finding something to heal is tough against an opponent who just refuses to damage your stuff. So sometimes it's unavoidable, and you should make the board in such a way where it is unavoidable. But that's kind of the jam against slow control decks, is damaging your units. The list I have here plays Star Shepherd with the Zenith Blade. I think that's optional. I do think Star Shepherd's really good. I think you can play Star Shepherd without Zenith Blade. Star Shepherd's also really good at just regaining tempo against aggro decks or mid-range decks that come out aggressive. It does grow big enough to block Fearsome as well. And if paired with a Zenith Blade, it could just OTK the opponent. That feels like a dream in some instance. I mean, Zenith Blade's not the best in this deck, but it does pair well with the Star Shepherd, and you could also buff up your Raka, your Tahm Kench. And then you have an overwhelming unit. Not very much power, but the Zenith Blade is not the worst. You can even put it on a Boxopus and a pinch, and then, you know, if it starts healing up, you can start challenging small units with it and overwhelming for more. You don't really have to play the Zenith Blade and Starship Shepherd. I think Hush is one of the better cards you can play for interaction. Pale Cascade is just one of the better cards in Targon and worth playing. Not only just for the fearsome, making a fearsome blocker aspect, but sometimes it saves your unit. It is only one toughness buff as opposed to something like Sunblast Vigor, which is a 2 toughness buff, but since this does have a proactive slant to it, and it replaces itself, it makes it just way better. Those cards are all good cards that I mentioned can be played, and I will show some other lists here before we get into it. This is the United Kingdom's list that they played in the EU event. One thing to note quickly, there's no Broadback Protector in here, so a lot lighter on units. Does play the full set of Zenith Blades. As you see in my list, I play 2, generally because you only really need to draw 1. The second one's just kind of cake in case they deal with the first. I don't want to get jammed up. You never want to draw a Zenith Blade. If you get 1 and then you end up turning into multiples, that's fine, but drawing extras never feels great. You see they did opt in on the Diversion Path as the 4th Star Spring. I don't know that you would ever want to play 2 of the Diversion Paths, though, and it's not a card you want to keep in your opener. You see, they are playing 1 Shakedown, so cutting the Broadback Protector opens them up to where they get the 2nd Zenith Blade, the 3rd Zenith Blade, a Shakedown, and what else did they get off of that? There's another card in here that we don't have a full set of. It's not Bastion. Oh, the 3rd Hush. You see, I think that's too much. I mean, Hush is good. It's really good. And if you played 3, I'd believe it. But it's not always the best. It is good. Don't forget about Hush also. If you use Tahm Kench to eat something, if they find a way to remove the Tahm Kench, you can Hush it before it gets removed, and then they won't get their captured units back. So that's probably it's probably a reason worth enough to play a 3rd Hush in the deck. Not a bad list. Not a bad list. Let's see. We're going to take a look at this other list too. Okay, this is the one from Mobilytics that they have on their tier list. If you want to look at this, it's just Raka Kench. Of course, all the self-damaging units. They do have the Star Shepherd in here. Broadback Protector in full. Star Spring, of course, in full. 2 Hushes, 6 of these 2-mana spells, 3 Ash Protection, 3 Bash, and 2 Sunblast Vigor. So basically our list, but instead of Sunblast Vigor, we're playing... They play Sunblast Vigor instead of the... Which I think there's a lot of merit to. The Sunblast Vigor instead of the Zenith Blade. Because it's faster, it's cheaper. You know, it can produce a blowout, potentially. There's also a 3rd Bastion instead of the Diversion Paths, which... I really like the Diversion Paths, because a lot of ways you win is with... this deck, and I will put those deck lists in the chat. So that's one list, and I'm just gonna put this in the general chat so that you can find it for reference later. And I also, before we get into any gameplay with this, I do want to encourage everybody in the academy, if you're having trouble laddering, or if you're working on a deck for a tournament, to definitely use this as a resource, this community that we have growing here, to share ideas as well as, you know, ask questions and possibly even test. And if you can record your gameplay, which, you know, eventually I'll make a call to show you how to record your own gameplay. That's an even better coaching tool for specific coaching, because we'll get to look at your games, and then maybe we can find something that might be fundamentally wrong, or we might be able to learn something from the games. So we're going to just get into it right here with this version, and we will make sure that we identify places where Sunblast Vigor is going to be better than Zenith Blade. That's one thing we're going to be looking for. Divergence paths as a bastion. Whenever we're looking at the differences between these lists, it's a good thing in testing. That way you don't actually have to play the games with the other one. You can actually look at it and just have it come up in your head. Alright, this is a Nivea deck. I feel like a Nivea should be pretty decent. Hutch is pretty good. This Boxtopus is a lot weaker than either of these other two units. Mostly for the fact that it has 1 toughness against a deck that very likely has a lot of 1 damage abilities. So we'll start with the Codger. And I don't know, see the right here on turn 2, the big question here is, do they have Avarician Sentry? Because if they have Sentry, then we don't want to play the Codger, right? Maybe we want to just lock in this 2 damage. But does this get better against a Sentry ever anyway? Probably not. I think we just attack. Lock it in. Split the difference there.
You're all so cute.
Just gonna pass here. See if they have like some kind of avalanche. Probably be a good spot for them to pass. And they can do that because we don't have much pressure here. Raka, huh? That's pretty good. Now, our whole board dies to Avalanche, but this is just going to bait the Avalanche out of him. Because we can hit him with a Pale Cascade here. The next turn we come to Soraka. And there was a Sentry as well. Yeah, definitely taking that too. We're only going to have 4 mana here. So we'll start with the Soraka. See if they wait on the Wild Feast. If they have a Wild Feast, they will most certainly cast it here. Looks like it's going to be an Avalanche. Okay. That's definitely fine. Okay, in this space, I think we prefer to go with the Star Shepherd, just to get it growing now. It does take us off leveling the Soraka by a little bit, but these units are going to be able, they're going to be able to damage themselves later. Is it possible that they have a 3rd Avalanche? Would that be the 3rd Avalanche? It would be. So, it's probably more likely that they have a Ruination here. So we just attack like this. This will level up the Soraka, which that's the reason it got in touch before. It does get in for an extra damage, and then it actually extra 3 damage because we had that extra heal here. So this is an A3. We have Bastion up to protect it, as well as Pale Cascade, and the Pale Cascade is also turned on. You want to make sure that you always draw the card from the Pale Cascade. Well, that almost removed all of their Nexus health. That's an Anivia. Okay. There's no reason to really do anything here. We don't want to like block and kill this and trade here. Yeah. So we can spell shield here. Spell shield here. Say okay. And then come with the box the puss. Which they shouldn't be able to remove with this 1 mana. Alright, and then that way if they have like Withering Wail, that's the reason to keep the Star Shepherd too, is it's going to completely invalidate any heals that they would have to be able to heal beyond this. Whereas if we had something smaller, less power, it's possible they could like Wail, which is not a good card against us at all. Right there. Just to heal up beyond the combat to get them to another turn, possibly another Ruination. That was pretty good. Yeah, so it actually didn't come up in that game about the Zenith Blade. The Overwhelm probably wouldn't have been that important. And we'll just jump into another one. But that's just type deck that's just going to be a victim. And we didn't even have a Star Spring. It's where you see like the deck really shine. You know it's a good matchup if you don't even need a Star Spring though. And we have Star Spring here, but we're seeing an Elise Noxious deck. Very likely very fearsome packed. So I think maybe holding 1 Pale Cascade isn't that bad. I think Tahm Kench is a little slow, but could be where we want to be. It is a little slow though. So I think we want to keep the Star Spring, and we could do better than this Tahm Kench. This is like a better 4-drop in this matchup for sure. Yep, Saboteur. See if we get an open attack here. Pick up a Hush. We'll be able to allow us to block with a Fearsome at some point. It's possible we want to just come with this Croaker because it has a clean block on this Saboteur. I know you want to like have your stuff get damaged, but we don't want to get too far behind on it. And then we can just come with a Star Spring next turn. And get the Star Spring working.
There's nothing to fear.
Raka, okay, that's gonna be a good pickup.
From the darkness.
I think we can just block the spider. That's a decent amount of damage right there. I like taking on the spider though.
So young. Every step, a new journey.
That's fine.
Nest, hatch, feed.
King Beast doesn't feel great.
Let me change into something more comfortable.
It's a 4-3. Let's see where the Zenith Blade's going to go. I mean, this thing will not level up right away, but I feel like we definitely want to play this Broadback Protector. And like, this could have found another Zenith Blade, but I think I'd rather get this on the Protector. Yeah, they're just going to take all that damage every time. And so here, we're going in turn round 6. This bashing could allow for a fearsome blocker. Skitter kind of feels bad. Maybe we just start with a Hush here. Turn off the Challenger. And then pass. Replace the Elise entirely. So this is going to be a pretty big fearsome attack. Of which we will be able to block. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Eight, 9, 10, 11. Huh. Other options. Don't have many. Yeah, we got a little too far behind, a little too quickly. Just gotta hope they don't have any kind of extra damage. We need their whole hand to be like all units. Now we will lose our Broadback Protector there because we had a block with it. Which feels pretty bad. So we'll bring us up to 4. This can keep us out of Decimate range. Start with this maybe. Doom Beast is something that we don't really want to see here.
If they don't break, for the glory of Noxus.
This is the ephemeral one, so
Be at peace. For the Empire.
okay.
You for the many. Stars fall. Take heart. Live with purpose.
All right. We have 2 fearsome blockers currently, but I think just total blockers is where we're gonna have trouble. Because if we just block the 3 fearsomes, we're still taking 5 around the side, and we have no way to heal through that. So This looks like game over. And again, Fearsomes is, like we mentioned at the beginning of the call, just going to be inherently strong against this deck. Because you see how much work we had to do.
Go no further. Take heart.
Maybe this could draw us into something, but yeah, there's nothing to draw into. We could, yeah, not enough bodies. Tough spot. So to improve in a deck in a matchup like this,
Such hatred in their hearts.
well, first of all, we draw better. A Star Guardian's pretty good. I mean, Star Shepherd is pretty good if you can get it out there early. Not much you can really do. There's a couple things that you could do, though. There's some lists, we didn't talk about this earlier, but there is a possibility that you know, Lounging Lizard can block a fearsome unit. Obviously, Skitterer shuts it down. Then there's also the Spring Guardian can block fearsome, and then also gives you a 1-mana full heal. If you rework the deck and maybe cut the Zenith Blades, you can add Spring Guardian here. I mean, I think the Star Shepherd is probably still just fine. And when you're healing a bunch of units, board space is an issue, obviously. The Star Spring does take up one spot, so playing more units. I mean, if we look at the total here, this is 23 units. That's a lot of units. Granted, this one does give you a spell to go with it, but we could try and like tool the deck a little bit like this. But another spell, I mean, this is just going to help straight up against Fearsomes, which, you know, have kind of found themselves in the meta. And also a 3-drop. 3/3 is just already a decent stat line. So we'll just try it without the Zenith Blade. I mean, if that was a different kind of aggro deck, it'd be a lot less of trouble. Goose Dude. This is another deck that has kind of showed back up. Has that Leviathan end game that could be trouble. I think Broadback Protector is going to be good. Astral Protection is definitely going to be good. I think maybe a Codger is probably good too to curve into the Star Spring. This could earn at least a Mystic Shot after we play the Star Spring. Like, they probably just need a Mystic Shot this or Thermal Beam this. You see it there, Death's Hand, okay. And I'm not scared to get down. Just come with this. Beam, takes the whole beam, okay. Now that is a fearsome unit that we would normally want to keep for Swain potentially. That's one way to get behind early in this game. I think this is a good broad back turn, because we'll get to heal the one back. Ooh, this with a flock is scary though. Well, not really, because if they flock this, it's not a big deal. Oh no, actually if they do flock it, now that we took the 3, we'll actually get removed. Didn't flock.
Round up those stars.
Don't tell me what to do.
The few for the many.
1 mana left, huh? Not sure if I want to use Spring Gifts here. Be better used later.
I'll protect you.
It would have like gave this 3 power, so we wouldn't have to worry about it much.
I feel better when you feel better.
We can go for a swank kill here. Taking the swain off the board now is great. It's not only going to stop 6 damage here, but the question is, do we want to give this up? They probably have Scorched Ruin for the Star Spring. I think it's probably better to make them flock here. Keep this thing alive. So now they have to have the flock here. It's not worth casting this one here. There we go. Again, we don't have Zenith Blade. Better than that actually is to maybe just go a little wide here. And I don't think it's that crazy to actually use the Virgin Pass to get a second landmark. Let that Cullen Strike stand. Might be better to just Kench. Yeah, we get the Kench working. Felt like a free attack there. Like, sending this in doesn't feel great.
I feel better when you feel better.
Give us a lot to heal. Hard pass, huh? Probably waiting on this. I like getting the second one of these working. That way we don't invest so much into just one.
We're all family here.
No eating for the Kench here.
I feel better when you feel better.
Let us peruse this establishment's fare. So what's in store for me?
Alright, so that's a bunch of Star Springs.
Conquest for Empire!
They didn't block. I don't know what happened there. They should have blocked, didn't block.
Woman dies.
Seemed like a mistake. It's not really representative of how that game should have ended. We were very likely going to play a Broadback Protector to be able to counteract the Leviathan hitting, but we wanted to start attacking to maybe pressure a Swain. Tahm Kench was going to be a little hard to protect as a 2/6. Could have maybe started eating some spiders. It was going to be the fastest track was going to be to play 2 landmarks. That way, if they did have Scorched Earth to remove one, the other one would be ready to level as well. We didn't see a Raka that game either. But being able to turn the corner, like, you could be a little aggressive. Which Star Shepherd early, maybe you want to save it. This list, obviously, we went with the Spring Guardian, which looked pretty good there. We did have that free heal coming off of it if we needed it. I mean, Zenith Blade would have been a lot better in that spot, 100%, because they weren't going to be able to kill our Star Shepherd, and if the sooner we gave it Overwhelm, the sooner we start finishing our opponent off. Some other possible options here. I mean, I really like the Broadback Protector, so we should probably run this back. And the extra body was nice as a 3/3. This problem with Zenith Blade is it makes you commit kind of all in one place against a control deck. Like that deck that we were playing against was playing the control role, and so like getting an extra 3/3. Force him to use some removal. You can't really just sit there and wait. Because a deck like that with multiple Scorched Earths could take a long time to actually kill the opponent. The Go Hard deck. I think this is a decent hand. We're going to be kind of aggressive. I mean, mulliganing for a Star Spring was an option too. It's one of the best cards in the match, honestly. Interesting. Feels alright.
If I kill you, I don't fortune, stupid. For silver I talk, for gold I listen.
And we want to spread it around where they're going to need at least a keg. To remove any of these units, we have the 2 mana banked. We could get the Tahm Kench rolling.
Gotta go with the flow.
I've been propagating quite the appetite.
You need to be careful because this deck does play some hard removal. What else would be hushing? A Gangplank? I'm fine with just blocking.
Try again.
No point taking the damage if it could be avoided.
Let us peruse this establishment's fare.
That's why we respect you, Captain.
I think this might be safe. Feel safe. There we go. And then we can just pass here. There's only 1 of 5. The gameplay's not that scary. We want to save room for a Star Spring. Could block here and use a guiding touch on it
We're all family here.
to just grow our other stuff. It also is the same as healing our face too. And it locks in at 3 damage.
Almost been down. There is no out. I told your ancestors to protect.
Suppose you want in on this.
Suppose I should leave you be.
We look after our own.
Okay, go hard. First go hard here. Then we should just pass back. If they play like Twisted Fate or something, then maybe we'll eat it with a Acquired Taste. Kench is a tough one to play with. I went over it in my Kench ladder video, Ash Kenshim, where it used freeze to make it work.
Where there's a will, there's a meal.
Okay, we get this down. We go watch out for crumble. Might have been better to just attack with this. But now the opponent might be sitting like, oh, we need a Ruination, or I'm just going to pass. I don't see any real point to attack. Now they're going to have to... These things are getting pretty big too.
Hang 'em by their entrails. Oh, you're a wee numpty.
I kind of want this box to push.
You're in for a whooping.
Yeah, I'll just block like this. I think this might be a safe place to go.
What's in store for me? I need time for commune, Tahm. This you know.
That could preempt a Ruination here, which we could rebuild off of with the Raka. I feel like they're passing to try and get me to acquire taste. You got to be careful with Tahm Kench because if you eat something and then they remove it, they get it back. So we wouldn't particularly want to hit Deckhand. We prefer to take the Butcher. This is a bad one to do because it's not bad. Like if you had to do it, you wouldn't feel bad about it, but it's not a priority because if they do happen to get it back, then it's going to summon an extra powder keg. So units with summon effects are like Zap Spray Fin, for instance, where it's got a tune and it draws them a spell. Really risky to do that. Okay, so in this instance, I probably shouldn't play that. Now that I look at it, we can do maybe start with just Kench.
I'm sure there's something for my taste. Need a hat to start.
See what they come with. And we should eat the petty officer. It's a play effect, so they won't get it again after. They do have pool shark. This one does trigger, which is like a great hit for this deck off the petty officer because it fits right into what their strategy is. This will probably be a glimpse. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. No. $4.12 here. It's nice being a 3/3 as well because they can't they can't gold card either of our champions.
Mustn't linger.
Live with purpose. Take heart.
They're gonna take the full 7. Sucks we didn't get this broad back down. But we will be able to self-damage with the Kinch, though. Fine. It's going to get healed up with the Star Spring. That was the second Go Hard, not the third one. You got to keep track of that when you play against Go Hard. See if they do anything. Oh, that feels bad. Alright, protected. I think this might be safe too.
Finn, I'm glad you're here. Need a little muscle?
Okay, so from this spot we can eat the Doom Beast safely to level up the Kinch. Three damage is going to be hard to pull off. Now they might have another Vengeance though. Does have it. Okay. We could try and high roll for a... Bastion. Didn't happen. Okay. So we'll get their units back. Which doesn't feel good for the Zap Spray Fin. We could have even officially a little further too by healing this with the Astral Protection instead of doing the Pale Cascade. I didn't count on that as another redraw. Leveling that Kinch would have been nice. See how they got the Zap back? They pick up this extra spell right here. And another spell mana. But they're out 2 Vengeances already. They don't have Crumble mana right now. I'm kind of okay with picking up another Star Spring since that's going to be our main path to victory. And some lists play Crumble. Some of these lists play Crumble. If that's the case, though, we're going to have to prioritize keeping the Broadback Protector alive. And that's going to be like a tall order. I didn't realize I had the attack token. We should have attacked before we played this.
Something the matter?
Well, no, not true, because this got to see 3 heals. I think it's pretty safe to damage this Raka. We'll have 12 mana on the next turn to triple Astral if we need it.
If I kill you, I don't fuck you, stupid.
And another Broadback, so that's going to put us in a good spot. Broadback's huge here because of these Doom Beasts and this Zap. We're going to be taking damage, so it's going to get perpetually self-damaged. And now this the level up Gangplank. It's going to be a push for a lot of damage, I think. Which I think we could take a lot of it. Start here. Do we have Hush for the Overwhelm if we want it?
Who's falling for blood?
As long as we don't die this combat, this Star Spring's gonna win us the game.
Blow to the depths.
Go no further.
I don't want to hurt you.
Maybe we can go to 8 here. So now they're gonna have to crumble. Because this is gonna be lethal. Then when they crumble, we'll come with another Broadback to heal even more on the next turn. Sure. We got 13 here, so this is going to be at least 5 healing next turn. I think it's probably best to just do this.
I'll clear a path for you.
Good to see you too, Vin.
I'll protect you.
You leave me no choice.
I've got this.
Take heart.
It's going to have to be another crumble. And that's where they're going to get taxed. Yep, GG. Yeah, another game where a second Star Spring was important. Just to back it up. Any deck that has access to removal for your landmark, you have to account for those. Yeah, so overall, I think that this list is pretty good. I think the flex spot here, Spring Guardian, that could be whatever you want. If you want an extra trick, that's fine. The extra trick might actually be better than the Spring Guardian as Piltover gets more popular. So cutting this for the 2 mana Sunblessed Vigor is fine, as well as if you wanted to play the Zenith Blade. I think the Zenith Blade is kind of like a middle ground because you can get something with 2 power up to 3 power to where you can fill that role against fearsome units. So that might be a good middle ground between the two, where you got like a buff and something against fearsome. Because I think the best thing that Spring Guardian does is what it brings to the table most is gives you a fearsome blocker and a decent board presence. But yeah, that's gonna be it. If you have any more questions about this deck, feel free to join the conversation in the Academy chat. If you have any questions about any particular plays, if you're catching this on the VOD, feel free to also mention me in the Academy chat as well. And yeah, that's going to be it. One love, good vibes, everybody. And I look forward to seeing y'all on Thursday's call.